Situation here in France is very much a strong one for Marine Le Pen's Rassemblement National with 23% of the vote. That is slightly down actually on the 2014 result for her, so she can perhaps be disappointed. Also, given the fact that the La République En Marche of Emmanuel Macron is just 1 point behind. So the governing party here in France coming second in the vote, but you could have expected it to do even worse given, of course, the Gilets jaunes protests and so on over the past 6 months or so. The big surprise here in France has been the massive breakthrough of the Europe Écologie Les Verts, the Green Party there with 13%, they're almost doubling their score of 2014. They've basically overhauled the other three parties in front of them. Les Républicains, the moderate Conservative Party, and the Socialist Party are both seeing their scores very much collapse over the past in these elections. And it has to be said that that green wave that we can see there in France is one of, in fact, the situation here in France is very, very interesting when it's extrapolated to the rest of the continent. What we're seeing is the populists that are very similar to Marine Le Pen's Rassemblement National doing extremely well in certain parts of the continent. And the other big story of the night is, of course, the green wave, which is here in France and is being repeated in other places such as Germany.
Well, tell us about Germany then, because Angela Merkel's CDU-CSU coalition has managed to hold on to first place, but things moving around quite a lot. Yeah,
they've held on to first place, but they've seen their score decline by 7%. So the CDU of Angela Merkel down to 28%. It seems like a poor, 29% there. It seems like a poor result given the situation of 5 years ago, but they are still the first and biggest party in Germany. So there is a degree of satisfaction there. The big story there, of course, is once again the increase in the share of the vote for the Green Party, 11 points higher than it was 5 years ago, on 21 there. And the other big story is the dramatic fall of the SPD, the Social Democrats in Germany, who've seen their vote share decline by 12 percentage points. So that situation is very much being repeated here in France and in Germany and across the big European countries.
Well, let's move on to another huge European country with a large proportion of seats in the European Parliament, Italy. There we've got some early results as well.
We're getting really the exit polls is what is giving us a better picture of the situation there. And the situation there is perhaps as was to be expected, that is that the Lega of Matteo Salvini has done very well, around about 30% of the vote. That is considerably ahead of the Democratic Party and its coalition partner, the Five Star Movement. And the really interesting thing there is to see to what extent Matteo Salvini has done well. He was expecting around about 30%. He's on target for that, but he's not going any further. And that does demonstrate, too, that perhaps there is a ceiling that puts a brake on the extent of to what extent the populists in Europe can convert their popularity into seats in the European Parliament. The other story there is to what extent the Five Star Movement has really failed to capitalise on the fact that it's been in government for over a year now, and it's still only in 3%, it would seem, behind the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party, which was in the doldrums a year ago, to a certain extent recovering there into the low 20s.
Absolutely. OK, so we are starting to get some results in from a bit of the black sheep of this election, it has to be said, the late entrant, the UK, that didn't even know it was going to be taking part until just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and the situation in the United Kingdom is very much along the lines of what we were expecting from the opinion polls in the run-up to the vote itself. The Brexit Party dominating massively. We're seeing scores in some areas, not in the regions, but in some areas of over 50% in favour of the Brexit Party. That is likely to translate across the country into extremely big wins. We're seeing the Conservative Party falling to an all-time low of 10% in these elections, it would seem, according to some early polls. And that's the party of government, of course, the Conservative Party falling to 10%. What we're seeing in the northeast of the country, Labour heartland, Labour is shedding votes too in favour of the Brexit Party. The northeast seeing two 2 of its MEPs being from the Brexit Party, 1 from Labour. That's a reverse from the situation of 2014. The east of the country, Brexit again. The Brexit Party again consolidating its victories there. 3 MEPs from the east of the country, 2 for the Lib Dems, 1 for the Greens and 1 for the Conservative Party. What's interesting there is that the Brexit Party is consolidating its popularity, but it's the anti-Brexit parties in the east of the country that are also scoring a total of 3 MEPs there. So there is a degree of, if you will, a fight back from the anti-Brexit movements, and questions are likely to have to be asked about why those anti-Brexit movements couldn't unify if they're going to have the same voter share as the Brexit Party.
Absolutely, plenty to discuss in terms of the UK, very much coloured by the Brexit debate, as we know. Just before we let you go and keep up with your results update, Luke, you've got news for us from Greece, not very rosy news for the Prime Minister.
Yeah, Alexis Tsipras calling snap elections this after his Syriza party fell to second place in the European elections, shedding quite a few MEPs in favour of the New Democracy Party, which is a member of the EPP.
Thanks so much, Luke Brown, with that.